Guys, are you ready for the ultimate showdown this weekend at UFC 298? Join me in the action by leaving your picks for the fights in the comments below. I have teamed up with DraftKings Sportsbook, and right now, new customers get a no-sweat bet. You can get a bonus bet back in the amount of your original bet if your pick doesn't hit. Minimum deposit $5. Sign up using my promo code Sonnen. And DraftKings has something for existing customers as well. All customers get SGP insurance every day. Get a bonus bet back if one leg of your SGP bet loses. Minimum number of legs required and max bet vary. And if sports betting is not yet available in your state, do not worry. You can still join in on all the fun with DraftKings Daily Fantasy. New customers, use my promo code Sonnen and you get a no sweat bet. So click on the link below and download the DraftKings Sportsbook app right now. Only at DraftKings Sportsbook. My official prediction for Ian Garry versus Geoff Neal. You know, it hasn't changed. I mean, I must tell you, I made one of these 5 months ago when Ian was supposed to fight Garry. I apologize. When Garry was supposed to fight Geoff Neal the first time, and I had Ian Garry. It's a situation of I don't know where Geoff is going to beat him at. Geoff Neal is going to have to be able to strike with Garry and moreover outstrike Garry. I believe Neal to be a good striker. Well, Garry's a great striker. And I believe Neal to be a superior grappler. But you can't just get the party started with grappling. Like, there's an old expression that they used to use in jiu-jitsu gyms to sign people up. They would say 80% of fights go to the ground. And that made it for many years until somebody else came out and said, yeah, but 100% of them start standing up. And then all of a sudden, like, that expression wasn't as cool anymore. But there's a lot of truth to both. And before you get into any grappling aspect, you've got to be able to get the guy down. It's always a huge miss in MMA. Like, if you want to go get into MMA, you're an athlete yourself, you're looking to join a gym, maybe you're a father and you want to get your son involved. There's always a tough juxtaposition because you'll be able to find a jiu-jitsu gym and you'll be able to find a boxing gym. Now, that means a kickboxing or taekwondo or karate. You'll be able to find a school for that. And you'll be able to find somebody to show you some joint manipulation. They don't happen until this one happens, which is wrestling. But outside of the school system, you will not find a wrestling opportunity for yourself or for your son. You can go to the Yellow Pages, you go to Google, you go to Yelp, you go to a friend. You go drive around town and just look at the different signs on the buildings. You will not find a place where you can wrestle outside of educational institutions. It is the hardest of all of them, which is why it doesn't exist. It's too hard. And I bring that to you because there's always a misunderstanding of fighting. There's only 4 places a fight can go. That's it. Coach Foster from Team Quest broke this down for me many years ago, but he was explaining this to me, that there's only 4 places that a fight can be. And it changed the way that I view and look at these competitions. But it also eliminates your ability to tell me who's better at grappling. It simply doesn't matter. Now, the in-between, who's better at wrestling, are you more dominant, can you out-wrestle him, it does matter. I think that Geoff Neal is very good. I think that Geoff Neal is a very good athlete. I think that Geoff Neal is ranked appropriately. Which the last time I looked, he was number 6. If he's 6, if he slid just a little bit. But right in that range, right in that good, meaty part of a guy that matters, that has consequence, that's at the top of his game. I think that Neal's all of those things. I just think that Garry's better. I think that Garry is misranked. When Garry broke into the top 15, I believe he currently sits at number 11. That's too low. I'm not confident that Garry is not a top 3 guy. I'm not confident that Garry should not be fighting for the championship next if he gets past Neal. But when I do look at that match, I go, okay, how's Garry going to beat him? Well, the exact same ways he's beaten everybody else, and he's only had one game plan. Garry has beaten everybody the exact same way, which is he sets up them on their feet with beautiful feints, and then he hits them. And it's one of these spots where if you're fighting Garry, he's never going to come out and attack you. Never. You're never going to run to a situation, boom, oh, there was an uppercut followed by a hook. It will not happen. He will feint you, and then he will come with a 2-beat combo. Jab cross is his favorite, but it could be a straight followed by a leg kick. It'll always be a feint, always followed by more than one punch. And I tell you that just because there's certain guys where once you do that, they will have mannerisms and rhythms. It wouldn't matter if the guy they were fighting was really good or bad. It wouldn't matter if they were in a street fight or not. They can't go. They cannot mount offense until they do something. Fedor has a tell. Nate Marquardt, friend of mine, former opponent, but he has a tell. I've never told anybody what it is, by the way, but it helped in my match with him. I used to train with him all the time, beat me up every day in practice. Clayton learned this tell. Was able to have good moments with him. I mean, I'm just sharing with you. He's a professional wrestler named Mark Marrow. And his professional wrestling gimmick was that he was a boxer, but in real life, he had done a little bit of boxing. And he broke down Chuck Liddell one time, and he said that Chuck Liddell cannot throw any punches until he blinks first. Now, I must tell you, I don't know if that's true or not. I haven't broken down Chuck because I didn't have to fight him, but it made headlines when Marrow said it. And he said, yeah, I think I could do well with Chuck because I know when everything's coming because he always has to blink. You'll see certain guys, and if you were able to go in the gym, if you're able to watch them in the gym, if you were able to go into their garage, every professional fighter you know has a heavy bag in his garage and he goes in there and gets workouts in. But he would do that on the heavy bag. He would feint. He would give the motion. If Chuck Liddell, in fact, is a blinker, he will blink before he hits that bag hanging in his garage when nobody's looking. There's certain things that your body has to do before it can do the next thing if you trained it into that habit. So, if you ask me how Garry is going to beat Neal, I will tell you the same ways he's beaten everybody else. He has some of the best feints in the game, and then he's very good at keeping range. He's very long, but he can keep you at the end of his punches. Like, that's a term and expression you hear in fighting. Well, if you can get inside, if you can keep him on the outside, like you'll just hear guys that don't know what they're talking about. Well, the footwork, they'll just throw out these terms. Keep him at the end of your punches. That's another one of these terms. You haven't seen 10 fighters in the history of fighting that know how to keep you at the end of their punches. You'll always hear about a length advantage, a reach advantage. You haven't seen 10 fighters, and that includes boxers in your life, that know how to use a reach. Dan Hooker is the best example that we have in the sport that knows how to use his reach, knows how to keep you back there, but Garry does too. And it really eliminates 85 to 90% of wrestling opportunity. Wrestling is the exact same for everybody. It doesn't matter if you are a JV guy or if you were an Olympic athlete. It does not matter. If a guy is further than arm's reach, you can't wrestle him. Don't even try. Put your arm out. If you can't touch him, you don't wrestle. Second, when you're ready to wrestle and engage, everybody from your first day to the Olympic finals must change elevation first. So when you start to understand these things, it can be fairly easy to shut somebody's wrestling down. All of a sudden, it doesn't matter who the better wrestler is. It does not matter. I know how to stop it. I'll keep you further than an arm's reach. And if my arms are longer, I'll never let you within sight of that. If I know how to use it, oh, by the way, Garry does. Second, you can never wrestle me till you change elevation first. Nobody, while maintaining height, steps in to close a distance. They will change elevation, then step in. And I only share that for you because wrestling is doing worse and worse. Wrestling's dominance is becoming less and less, but I'm sharing with you why. And I'm sharing with you, if you come to the conclusion that Geoff Neal can outstrike Ian Garry, guys, have at it. I fully support you. You could be right on that. I wouldn't know. If you come to the conclusion that Neal is a much better grappler than Garry, I will just have to remind you that doesn't matter. And that hasn't mattered since the 90s. And the expression is true. 80% of fights go to the ground. But it's also true 100% of fights start standing up.